folks? Welcome to the Life Hacks Podcast, where everyone is a student of life. Sometimes we get life completely right, and sometimes we get it completely wrong. I am your host, Steve Smith. On today's episode, it is my distinct honor and pleasure to welcome this awesome guest to the podcast. He is a history major from the West Virginia University. He is a food consultant for several high-profile restaurants and sports bars throughout the local area and region. He is a well-established family man and a great role model for everyone around him. He is also someone that I consider one of my best friends, one of my personal role models growing up. He was also the best man at my wedding. And last but not least, he is personally responsible for me getting into so much trouble and for all of my reckless behavior as a teenager and a young adult. I blame him for everything that I got in trouble for. Ladies and gentlemen, please give your undivided attention and a warm welcome to my very special Life Hacks guest, my awesome buddy, Greg Perkins. Welcome to the show, my man.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me. This is awesome. I don't know about all that trouble stuff. I mean, I think it was, you're probably right on a lot of it, but, I think it was mutual. I think we got both of ourselves into trouble,
Right.
So it was definitely a lot of fun, regardless.
Oh, yeah. I would say most of that trouble was coming from my end.
No, I mean, it was definitely mutual. We both like to have a good time.
Yeah, we do.
We were pretty ornery growing up.
Gosh.
There's no doubt about that.
There is no doubt about it. Hey, folks, for all you guys that don't know out there, me and Greg, we have been pals for, oh my gosh, what do you think? 5 years old?
I think the first time that we met, if I'm not mistaken, was the first year you played T-ball.
That's right.
And we played down at the racetrack, I believe. And that's the first time I can remember hanging out with you. Then our parents became friends. And obviously, we spent all of our youth growing up together.
That's right.
From that point on, I was 6, you were 5. I mean, we became great friends and we stayed great friends all the way through high school and today.
I know it, man. It's been a long road, really. I mean, 4 or 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years old. What are we now? Mid-40s?
I'm 44.
Almost 40 years of our lives.
Wow.
We've known each other.
That's incredible.
It's awesome. I mean, it's friendships like that. You don't, everybody's got best friends and acquaintances that, in their lives, but something about ours, it's, we'll talk about later in the podcast. We have some very unique bonds and we've been through a lot of awesome things together and we've been through the lowest things together in life. Sure, and, no matter what happens in life, I think we will always have a connection. I know we've kind of lost contact here or there, but that's just life,
right,
what I mean?
It's life. Everybody, like we're talking about before, 3 stages of life. But, essentially, I was the best man in your wedding. You were the best man at my wedding. And, even at those times, we weren't speaking every day.
Yeah.
But, when I was getting married, my wife now asked me, who's going to be your best man? I didn't hesitate. I said, Stevie Smith. The only person that was a close second would have been Tony. But I know Tony doesn't want to give a best man speech.
Right.
Probably for the same reason he wasn't the best man at your wedding. Like Tony's like, oh, come on, man. I don't want to do that.
I just want to drink beer and party.
Right. Yeah, us 3, we were, me, you, and Tony were sticks as thieves growing up, and we were always together. So.
Oh, my God.
But yeah, I feel like, like coming here today, we haven't seen each other for quite a while, but I mean, I don't feel like we missed a beat.
Oh, no, me neither.
So no. That's true friendship.
It is.
You feel comfortable around someone, no matter how long it's been from seeing them.
Yes,
so.
I agree. It's quite the relationship. I mean, well, our parents were best friends for a long time too.
Yeah.
When we became good friends, and every time we were doing something, then our parents were also doing something together. Either with us or it was always like family based.
Well, if they were doing something together and they didn't want us to come along, it was like it was either like one of your aunts babysitting us, or we were spending time with somebody, somebody else's house, and we were always together.
It was. It's quite the history. I don't know if you've listened to some other podcasts or not, but basically what I do is I start the show off with an icebreaker, and then we start into some questions. And I've got some questions here picked out, and we're just going to go through them and answer them honestly. You can elaborate as much as you want, or you can say I skip. You know what I mean? Whatever you want to do.
Gotcha. Well, fire them at me, man.
All right, man. Let's start out with question number 1. How would you describe yourself to a person that does not know you?
Wow. Geez, start off with an easy one, why don't you? No, I mean, that's a tough one because anytime you have to talk about yourself, it's never easy. But, I think the big word I would use to describe myself is probably laid back.
I agree.
I'm a very laid back person, especially the older I get. I don't ever try not to get too worked up over things, If you don't know me, then, that would be the one word I'd use to describe myself is laid back.
I agree with that. I agree with that very much. It's a good answer. That's a hard question. It really is because nobody wants to talk about themselves.
No. And I mean, there's some negative things I would throw in there too and some more positive things. But, I think in one word, laid back.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I think I'm easy to get along with. I do have a temper, but it takes me a long time to get there.
It's a nasty one, though.
Yeah, yeah, it probably, but the older I get, the harder it is to get me there. I just, once you get to a certain age, you realize getting mad it's not worth it. It's
not worth it.
90% of the time.
It's not, probably 95% of the time.
Probably 99, right. But the older I get, the more laid back I get. And I think that probably will be, will suit me when I get older for my heart.
Yes.
You don't get worked up too much.
Right.
You don't have, I try not to have a ton of stress. I try not to sweat the small things.
There you go. And like I said, that you've always been that way, as long as I remember, you've been easygoing, good to go. No problems. And I've never seen you label somebody for whatever that person is, with stereotypical type thing. If that's a race or whatever. I've never seen you ever label anybody other than a human being. You know what I mean? It's just you gave that mutual respect to people every time I've been around you, and that's always been awesome.
I think that's one of my better qualities. Obviously, is I definitely don't judge people.
Nope.
I had some other friends later in life say the same thing. Like my one buddy was like, "You'll talk to anybody."
Absolutely.
I'm like, sure. If they want to talk to me, I'll talk to them.
Right.
I mean, I may not want to talk to them after 5 minutes, but I'll give them that initial opportunity to make an impression on me.
Yeah.
And that's part of being laid back. I think a lot of people will put labels on people and say, "Oh, that guy looks like this certain way or that certain way." Yeah. I know I'm not going to mesh with them. You don't know until you try.
That's right.
That's life. Going to college at a university like the size of WVU, and you're coming from a small place like West Virginia, Pennsboro, West Virginia, mountain really outside of Pennsboro. My roommates were from I lived in a fraternity house with guys from New Jersey, guys from New York, guys from Florida. So just by looking at someone, trust me, you can always, you can't always make a first impression's not always right.
Right.
Two of my best friends from college were from Vermont, so they don't dress like people in West Virginia. You know what I mean? But at the same time, I became some of my best friends, in my life were guys that you meet and not necessarily look the same way or talk the same way.
Yeah, yeah.
But next thing you know, you guys are hanging out all the time.
It's crazy. So, life's crazy.
It is. I'm sure the military for you was like that too. I'm sure when you went over there was a lot of people from this neck of the woods or that neck of the woods or that neck of the city.
Completely.
And, you kind of surprise yourself with who you gravitate toward.
Yeah.
It may not be someone that's exactly like you, but maybe you think the same.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly true, man. Wow. That's a good answer. All right, buddy. I got another question here. I never did really know this, so I thought I'd ask you.
Okay.
What makes you tick, man? What does your everyday routine consist of? And you don't have to give me the details, but what is it that makes...
The whole minutia? No, I mean, honestly, this day and age, being at 44 and I'm in sales, so my daily routine is basically planning my day out.
Yeah.
You have to. If, I'm in outside sales, it's not like I go to an office and clock into and punch a card.
Yeah.
I got to sit down, I got to write out what I'm doing that day, who I'm seeing, what time I'm supposed to see them, what I'm going to talk to them about that day. That's a big part of my routine in the morning is just figuring out, because it's driving. I mean, if I don't figure this out right and I get to this place and they're not there yet, I've killed 20 or 30 minutes and I'm not getting back.
Right.
So, that's a big part of my day is time, is figuring out my time management for the day. What makes me tick? I'm in sales, so results. I'm full commission sales rep for a great company, but they're not going to pay you unless you're selling something.
That's right.
So, that's what kind of makes me tick, and it's definitely became a bigger part of my life as as longer I get into the career. You get more career driven.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You want to be at that top of that list. When they announce the best salesman of the year awards and this and that, and they give trips out. And, you want to be that guy on those trips. It's a competitive nature you have growing up playing sports.
That's right.
You want to be successful and you want to be one of the better ones. And I've gotten a lot better at that over the last 6 or 7 years of my sales career, is putting that competitive energy toward my sales.
You've always been competitive for sure.
Yeah, I am. I'm very competitive. But that's kind of what makes me tick these days is that. And family, obviously, like I love my wife and my son, more than anything in the world. And, it's either work or them, but for the most part. I think a lot of people are like that when you get in your 40s, There's not a lot of me time.
No.
So that's kind of what's got me going these days. How about yourself? What are you into these days? Besides the podcast, obviously.
Yeah, I've got some irons in the fire over here, but
right.
My basic stuff is my whole life is based around my family, and everything I do is based around how I'm going to set up, doing the things I need to do for my daughter. She's in soccer and all the extracurricular activities she's in, but everything I do is based on, how to get myself and her and my wife to all these events, or, it's just family based anymore. And, and all this stuff I do on the side, it's more of just some extra time when I have it. And
that's your hobby. It's what you enjoy, right?
I do it. I enjoy it. Everybody needs a hobby, and
they do.
It's just something that, passes time for me. So,
yeah. By the way, the first 2 shows you did were phenomenal.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, those guys you had on there were great guys. Obviously, you had a well planned out content. I was really impressed, man.
Thank you.
I just want to give you a huge compliment because I listened to a lot of podcasts.
Awesome.
And yours had as good a flow to it as, Joe Rogan's.
Hey, Joe, you hear that?
Yeah, Joe.
Come on, get me on the show.
I listen to Joe's all the time, man. He does a great job. And he's that dude is an animal, man.
He is. He's phenomenal.
No matter what he does, he's successful at. He's one of those guys.
Yep.
And he's just, I don't know, man. The way he processes information and throws it back out is he's about as good as there is.
I agree. Hopefully we can get there someday.
Yeah.
We'll see. Hey, I got another question for you.
You sure go
All
ahead.
right. What is something about you that might surprise others if they knew?
Well, wow. Yeah, that's not an easy one. But I will say this. There's probably one thing that I'm into that a lot of people would never say, wow, you're really into that. It's paranormal, man.
What?
I love that stuff, man. I watch all those shows.
I had no clue.
Yeah, man, I'm kind of addicted to it. It's embarrassing to tell people sometimes, but it's something else I probably would throw right into that. That's the same with probably, I would never tell anybody this normally, but since you have a podcast, I'll give you some content on the show that's interesting, really interesting. My house is haunted.
What?
I live in a haunted house.
I know you're pulling my leg.
No, I am not pulling your leg. The house I live in now is an old part of Morgantown, West Virginia, and it was built in 1920. And there's been the old lady lives across the street was raised there. It was the Lucci family, and a bunch of them died in the house. And over the course of the years, you can imagine.
Yeah.
At one time, I think 15 people lived in this house, and it's not a real big house. It's 2-story, but it's not,
You're kidding me.
We've had some crazy things happen in our house.
You're kidding me.
No, I'm serious.
Dude.
The only thing we actually have proof of is when Grayson, my son, who's 6, he was a baby, and my wife and him are in the dining room and they're playing. There's no TV on. There's no nothing on. So she was filming him, crawling around and, what you do with a baby, and there we got one of those EPVs showed up in the recording, and it was a woman's voice, and it says, "Get me out of here."
No way.
She still got it on her phone.
Oh my God.
I'll have her send it to you.
I believe you. I'm just this is outrageous, man.
But yeah, we showed a few people and they're like, "Oh wow, that's crazy." It's really spooky.
No way.
There's some other things have happened too. A couple of our friends were visiting from out of town. They were staying with us, and my buddy was talking to me because he thought I was at the door because he said the door just turned and opened. I was in the kitchen. I was 2-3 rooms away the whole time. He came in. He said, "Hey man, did you just run back into the kitchen?" I'm like, "No." He's like, "Somebody just opened the door." I'm like, "There's no one down here but me." There's no one open the door. But then another time, I saw a jar fly off our bookshelf.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. It's one of those things I always kind of was interested in. I always kind of intrigued, piqued my interest.
Yeah.
And this stuff started to happen. I started really getting into it because you kind of want to get to the core and what's going on and why is this happening. And you never feel like it's in danger, you're scared or anything like that. It's just some weird things happen. You just get excited. And one night, I was watching my blankets dance. Like I'm serious, man. I wasn't underneath them either. I know what you're thinking. But no, seriously, like I told my wife this. I was like, the comforter was on the couch and it was moving, and the cat wasn't. It was put up in the bathroom at the time.
What?
So, yeah, there's been, she said my wife's had her things happen too, where she's like, this happened today, and we have our own little stories at least like once every couple of weeks. Guess what just happened? It's always like something, paranormal. But
yeah,
no, I mean, I figure a lot of people don't know that about me. I don't really share it a lot to people because
I had no clue.
Because some people be like, "Oh, this guy's nuts."
Yeah,
you lose credibility right away. But I'm not saying that I was like a hardcore believer in the paranormal before this, but I mean, I can't explain it.
Why not? Right? You just had proof,
right? I can't explain it. So
yeah,
until someone says, "Well, this is what happened."
Yeah.
I'm going to be like,
yeah. Well, yeah. I totally understand.
I think my house is haunted.
If you witnessed something and you witnessed it and you did, I mean, how true is that?
And there's been a couple times where my wife and I have witnessed the same thing. So it's not like, we're like, you were lying. No, you were lying. No, I mean, it's like there's definitely some credibility and validation to it when someone else is experiencing the same things you are. And my buddy that actually was at the house that one time I was talking about, like, he didn't believe me.
Yeah.
But then he believed me after that.
Oh, yeah.
He was like,
I bet.
My God. Yeah. So, then, like, we have other friends that came to stay at our house and they stay in a spare bedroom. And they've said things like, I just feel creepy in here, man.
No way.
Yeah.
Man.
I've never felt that. But I mean, that guy's wife actually was the one that said it. She said that, I can tell. All right. You can tell, but no, it's awesome. I figured that was something that was, that you wouldn't expect me to say
You blew my shoes off. I wasn't expecting that. I know a lot about you. I'm like, damn.
Well, I mean, this isn't something that I grew up, it's just recent, really. I mean, for the last like 6 or 7 years, I had some stuff when I lived there. I lived there by myself for a while too. And I never really, I don't know. I guess I was probably drunk a lot more when I was single than I am now that I'm married with a kid. But I never really noticed too many things out of the ordinary before.
Yeah.
My wife and I, she moved in and then we had our son. But
yeah.
I don't know if it was our son that triggered something or I don't know. It was
a
family house. But
that's awesome, man. That's an interesting story.
Yeah. It's sometimes it's hard for me to believe when it's coming out of my mouth. It's like, like really telling you this, but no, that happens. I mean, those are things that I've experienced the last 4 or 5 years. And that one, I mean, you got to check out that EPV that we have because anybody I show it to they get cold chill. It makes your hair on your back, your neck stand up because you can tell it's like it's an out of body voice. You can just tell it's like, it's saying like something creepy, like get me out of here. Exactly how it sounds like.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I was like, okay, but no, I mean, that's it.
That's awesome. I got another one here for you.
Okay.
What would you tell 18-year-old Greg Perkins?
Buy stock in Amazon.
Absolutely.
The Google, bet the Mountaineers in the Sugar Bowl against Georgia. The money line. Take the money line. No, I mean, there's a lot of things I would go back and tell myself at 18.
Yeah, just give me a point. The main point.
Probably now, like what I talked about earlier, when you asked me to describe myself about be more laid back. I mean, I was always laid back, but I think when I was 18, I sweated the small stuff a lot more than I needed to. You're always worried about this or that. I definitely would have told myself to take college a little more serious. I started off as a biology major and that didn't pan out because I didn't go to class as much as I needed to pass chemistry and math, which are very tough when you get into biology. I mean, you start getting those upper level classes. I mean, if you miss one day, I mean, you're behind a century. So no, I would definitely tell myself to take my career a little more seriously. It's hard for me to say that because the way things worked out, I enjoy what I do and everybody goes on different paths and you just don't know what, but at the same time, I definitely would have told myself, hey man, maybe take your career a little more seriously at 18. Yeah. It's hard to do that at 18, because you really don't know what you want to be yet.
Right. I mean, obviously hindsight will always be 20/20.
Right.
And we can look back at the 18-year-old Steve or Greg and say this or that. Yeah. So.
And another thing too, like I enjoyed sports a lot. I mean, we'll go to some stuff later, but as far as our athletic careers together, but when I was 18, especially before I went to college, I was almost done with sport. I just didn't.
Yep.
I had some opportunities I didn't take.
Yeah.
And maybe looking back, I would have maybe liked to tried to pursue this or that. and I didn't.
Right.
But again, hindsight's 20/20, and I'm not disappointed where I ended up.
Oh, no.
It's just a few things you just look back on and say, well, what if I would have did that? Not so much, how it would turn out. It's just a difference.
Just what would have happened kind of feeling.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, because obviously if that route would have been taken, the life you live today would have been completely different.
Exactly.
I mean, that's just how it rolls. But
yep.
Yeah, I agree. I think a lot of the same things. I'm like, man, what if I would have tried, like taking football a little bit more serious post high school?
You went to Fairmont State for a while, right?
Yeah, for a little bit. But, I passed up some opportunities straight out of high school because I skipped a year.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I was in love and, and all that thing. And I just, but, like I said, that's near here or there. So that's the past. I mean, but I often think, man, I wonder what, if I could have just at least got my college paid for or
exactly.
This or that.
Exactly.
Because there was, being a pro athlete, that ain't gonna happen, guys.
No, you and I were both good athletes in high school, but let's be honest, I don't think either one of us are going to, play on Sundays.
No. I mean, that's just, even the most athletic kids still have a very small chance of making it.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many, pitfalls that you're going to run into throughout your career. I mean, not only do you have to be uber talented, you have to be uber driven, and things have to go your way as well. I mean, there's very few LeBron Jameses out there where you're just that blessed, or Randy Mosses, or those guys like these examples. As far as West Virginia goes, wow. I mean, that kid was a man among boys.
Crazy.
But no, I mean, that's 18-year-old me was kind of like me now. It's just I was dumber. I don't know about that.
Definitely.
I think we all are at that age. But like you said, all that testosterone that's coursing through your veins at 18.
Yeah. If I could go back and me at 43 to meet me at 18, I'd kick my ass. You see what I'm saying?
Sure, yeah.
I'd whip my ass.
I think I'd have a problem with myself too.
Definitely. I mean, I'm a completely different guy now, and most people are the age.
Yeah.
But I'm 180 than what I used to be, and I mean, I'm not maybe a 180, but everything has matured completely. I'm not completely matured, but
you were a little more hot tempered than I was.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, not so much like you were now. You were a good dude. I mean, you were nice to everyone. It's just that your wick was a little shorter than mine.
Very much so, yeah.
So yeah. But I think everybody's like that at age 17, 18, more so than they are now anyway. Yeah. But no, like I said, I wouldn't change anything.
No,
but I definitely would buy some stock in Amazon. I would leave that note in my pocket and say, but I probably would have thrown it away at 18.
Well, you talk about being 18. The purpose of this show is it's a life hack show. What it is we just talk about life and experiences. And growing up, I don't want to change any of those because there's value in having shitty life or making shitty decisions or making.
You learn.
There's so much value in that. And I don't know about you growing up, but I know how I am. If somebody hands me something, says, "Here, this is yours," guess what? I don't appreciate that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, I might appreciate that gift, but as far as if I have to work for if that thing is,
you're going to appreciate it.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it's something you work for and earn. You're going to take better care of it.
Yeah. So that kind of lessons is more valuable than anything. Just being able to. I don't want to say not to accept gifts, but I might have come across wrong there. But
no, but you definitely learn more from something that you've earned yourself. I think you learn from failure.
There you go.
If you don't try. If you're trying to do something and you don't, and it comes easy to you, you don't really learn anything because it's easy to you.
Yep.
Now, when you go do something that's hard to you and you have to learn how to do it and to be good at it,
yes,
that's where your mind develops in the fact of a good work ethic, or you really appreciate what you've accomplished because it was hard for you to accomplish it.
Right. That's where I was going with that.
Yeah.
Good save.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean,
see, we know each other well.
Right. I mean, there's things in my life that came easy to me and there's things in my life that came hard. But, the things that came hard and I became good at meant a lot more to me.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And they did. So.
Hey, let's jump into some of our history, man. Let's just, for all you folks, like we said earlier, me and Greg have known each other since we were about 5 years old. And we've played sports together. You name it, t-ball, football, basketball, anything that was available in our area, we played it together. And, we were good at it. We had some good teams and we're both, people might consider us good athletes. So let's go back into some of our high school stuff here, man. What is your most embarrassing or your funniest moment while you were in high school? And it can be sports related or
do you have something in mind?
No. I just want to say
it's funny because one of the most embarrassing moments of my high school, you were involved. And you know what I'm going to say, do you? Or do you know what I'm going to say?
Maybe, I don't know.
We used to do this thing to each other where we'd pants each other. Do you remember that?
I do.
So I think it was, we were in a new high school at the time. So it was my senior year. It was the second half of it because we didn't move into the high school until after Thanksgiving break our senior year.
Yeah.
And I was standing at the lockers talking to a pretty girl, I think. And somebody came behind me while I was wearing gym shorts and boxers and yanked them all down from behind me. You remember who that was?
I do remember.
That was you. Now maybe I had it coming. Maybe it was a payback. I don't know. I'm just saying. That was pretty embarrassing because the girl I was talking to at the time was like, that was the first time I had to explain what I'm a grower, not a shower.
Yeah. I remember that, dude. I took off running to save my life. I'm like, I'm out of here.
No, I mean, it was funny. I laughed about it. I mean, it wasn't like I got mad, but I was like, I'm going to get you. You're getting it. Or maybe that's what you had told me the day before when I got you. I don't know. But I don't remember the exact context of it. But
do you remember that was like the big thing back then?
Oh, yeah. We did to each other all the time.
Every time you turn around.
But you got me perfect. Like, you had the perfect situation. Like, it was teed up for you. You probably walked around a corner and was like, oh, God.
That's exactly that.
He's talking to her. She's pretty. He's got the right shorts and yonk. Go ahead. Hey-o. Looking back on that made me laugh. Obviously, but it's both laugh, but it's just funny because it was embarrassing at the time, but it was also funny at the time. Like, I don't know, like, I think an hour later we were laughing about it.
Yeah, definitely. Because, you and I don't think we've ever gotten to a fight or no,
we had disagreements, but I mean, we never,
we've never been like,
we think a lot alike, I think.
Whatever, you know what I mean?
I think we have the kind of like the same mentality and we think a lot alike. So I think if we ever got mad at each other, we always kind of worked it out in our head. That's not worth it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
So
yeah, that was,
we have both like to laugh and have a good time.
Oh, for sure.
So I think that was that trumped anything. Like if we ever got mad, one of us would crack the other one up.
Yeah.
So,
Oh my God. Oh, all right, man. Let's get into some high school stuff again.
Okay.
For those of you that don't know the history with me and Greg, we're going to touch on it here shortly. And it's not just our history; it is the history of our community. Even nationwide, it had a nationwide impact. You remember some of the people that reached out to us and
Sure.
nationally about what happened. But I got another question here, and this will kind of get us rolling into the subject.
Okay.
Describe this name for me in the best way that you can. Chuck Schofield.
Well, we've talked about it before. I mean, the first word that comes to mind to me is stud.
Oh man,
he was a stud, man. He was ripped at 14 years old. You know what I mean? He was just one of those guys that he was tough. He was very intelligent. He was he was like us. He liked to have a good time. He was funny. Just a great overall person, man. And he was somebody that I gravitated toward. The first time I met him, we were in 5th grade, and that was the first time, either one of us had went to middle school. He was from Mellinboro, I was from Pennsboro, and you get a locker partner assigned.
Yep.
It just so happened, that was my locker partner my 5th grade year. We became good friends after that, but not so much that. We just kind of gravitated toward each other, because he was fun to be around.
Yeah.
He's just a good person, man. Like I said, but number one thing, he was a stud, man.
He was remarkable.
Yeah.
He was, you hear this statement a lot, a man among boys. I mean, he was that guy.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a Greek sculpture. I mean,
yeah. Oh God. Yeah.
Big.
He didn't have to, he was one of those guys that didn't really work hard. I mean, he did. I mean, he lifted some weights and stuff, but he was going to be cut like that naturally anyway.
Yeah.
But, he just, he was a stud.
Yes, he was. And, for those of you that might not know who Chuck Schofield is, Chuck Schofield was a football player, that we went to school with, and he passed away September 30th, 1993 from an accident that occurred on September 24th, 1993 during a football game that we all played in a rival county of ours, Worth County. He had a tragic, brain injury, and he passed away a week later, almost, after the game. But that's who Chuck Schofield is. For those of you that don't know, I just want to talk to you about we don't really talk about this a whole lot, and I don't think anybody in the community really does. And they really haven't since then. From what I'm learning, I've reached out to some people, but
you talk to people that obviously were around that when it happened, and we've done some things. Like I came back and the anniversary of it and spoke before the Doddridge County football game, and you kind of do the memorial things and the scholarship fund that they they'd set up and whatnot, but you don't really ever just talk about it.
Right.
So
yes, we don't.
That's just, it's tough. It's a hard thing to talk about sometimes. It never gets really easy, no matter how much time's passed, it's something that hurt and it's never going to not hurt.
Right.
So,
yeah, it changed lives forever. And you and I and everybody that's involved and everybody in the community has been affected by it at some level.
Sure.
I mean,
no doubt about it.
Obviously the family and the immediate family have the worst of it.
Yes, no doubt about that. Dick and Nancy, actually. Yep. I mean, I couldn't imagine what they went through that whole ordeal. Yep. And, it's a tough thing.
So let's talk about September 24th, the night that it happened. What's some of your memories from that night? I mean, we can talk about all the details and some of the things I remember, and a lot of the things are completely foggy. And as dramatic of an event that was, there are some things that are as vivid as, blue and red, but there are some things that are as foggy as a midnight sky.
Yeah, it's weird what you remember vividly and what you have to piece together. Mm-hmm. And there's no rhyme or reason to it, I don't think. I think it's just the way the mind works. Yep. But what I remember about that night, the probably like we talked about maybe once or twice before, is when it happened. We ran a play. He played tight end. I played quarterback. He ran a crossing pattern across the field. He completion. He catches it, and the defender was behind him and kind of grabbed his shoulder pad and flung him around. And it wasn't so much the hit, being tackled. It was just the back of his head hit the ground really, really hard.
Yeah,
it bounced off the ground, and he got up and came back to the huddle, and we were calling the next play, and he was a little wobbly.
Yeah.
And I said, "Are you all right, man?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm good. And so we called a play, and we go up to the line to run it, and he collapsed. I mean, he just, that's how you remember it as well.
That's exactly how I remember it. Yep.
Yeah. So, that's what happened. He collapses. Obviously, play stops. The trainers come out on the field, and the next thing you know, he's being, drove off the field in an ambulance.
Yeah.
We finished the game, like, okay, play ball again, right. Which is like, that's you're thinking about, well, geez, what just happened? But, we finished the game, we won. And, like, it was weird because I remember being at the hospital, but I don't remember how, I'm pretty sure my parents drove me, but I don't remember the trip there or anything. I just remember being at the hospital all weekend. And, it was the last day, the 24th of September was the last day that Chuck truly was alive, and that's what I remember about it the most.
Yeah, I agree. Man, what an event. I had this same memories that you do. As the play happened. We were in the second half of the game. The game was, I don't know, midway through the third quarter-ish.
Yeah, it was definitely the second half.
And we ran a play. I think I was in the pass route on that play, I think, too. So
I'm sure if he was in it, you were.
Because I was a receiver, Chuck was a tight end. And I remember seeing the tackle, and it was a violent tackle. I mean, I want to get into this later, too, about the kid that tackled him, but it was a violent tackle. And he hit his head hard. But was it a dirty tackle? No way.
No, absolutely not.
The reason why I want to say that, because I've talked to some of the quite a few people from the Work County area, and actually, my daughter's principal was on the field that day for Work County, right? And he was like, because he remembers this vividly too.
Right.
And he said, that kid that made the tackle basically has been living, rough for a long time, because he, there was a little bit of some anger coming from the Rich County side to the Work County side that it was a violent tackle. And I don't know if you're familiar with that, but from what I wasn't. From what I learned later on, I guess there was, and I didn't know that either. Yeah, it's just guys playing football, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, look at the other side of it, and God, it's even hard to. But Chuck was a hard hitter.
Oh,
I mean, he violently tackled people all the time himself.
Every play.
So it's kind of hard to hold someone on the other side accountable for a way,
I guess that's what I'm getting at. We do not. Nobody that I know of holds.
I don't even remember that even ever being brought up.
Yeah,
to be honest with you,
I didn't either. So, I learned it later on that it was like an issue. I'm like,
were parents talking about it? Maybe I don't know. I just for me, it's not something that I was aware of.
Nope. So same here. I just want to say that just in case somebody hears this.
Well, listen. I mean, if that guy's living with guilt, he need not be, because I don't think anybody that really has any common sense would think that kid was out to do what to have that end result happen.
Right.
That wasn't
It was just a play. It was a football play.
Yeah, man. It was a freak thing. It really was. Now, obviously, Chuck had some history with some concussions the year before, and there was no way you're going to keep him from playing.
Nope.
He
was hard.
And that was the thing. I know, like, a lot of people were like, "Well, maybe he shouldn't have played." Well, no, that was he loved football and he was going to play. The doctor the year before maybe said, yeah, he might be prone to having, a brain aneurysm or concussions or whatever. I don't remember the exact diagnosis they gave him, but I know that they went and talked to somebody else and he was like, no, he'll be fine. You got to be careful. You got to, whatever, keep an eye out for this or that.
In that day and age, the concussion thing wasn't like it is today. And I don't even know if it would have, kept him from playing in today's age. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, sure, he might have had a longer...
There would have been a lot more... They could have done a little better research and, as far as his condition, or they would know more about it if there was,
But even that being said, for the medical decisions made back then were all correct,
Well, you never heard of that. Like what's it called now? The
CTI, I think.
CTI. Whatever the Will Smith movie was about. I mean, that just was not talked about.
Right.
Now, you knew there was guys that they called him punch drunk that used to play football a lot. Like old pros, and stuff like that. But, there wasn't research wasn't out there. The information wasn't out there. And like you said, I don't know whether you'd keep him from playing or not, even if it was. That was probably Chuck's favorite thing to do.
Oh, for sure.
Play football. He loved it. He played other sports, but football was his.
He was a machine.
He loved playing linebacker. He loved hitting people.
He was mean, dude.
Yeah, he was mean. Different personality off the field and on the field. There's no doubt about that.
And he always played clean, never played dirty. But
some of the hardest hits I've ever seen in my life.
Here. I remember getting hit by him in practice a few times.
Oh, man, me too.
Dang, man, my soul just left my body.
Right, we did. I did hitting drills with him, man. That was not fun. You're paired up with. I'm like, come on, man. I play quarterback. Don't do this to me. But I remember there was a kid that played at Marshall that was from Calhoun County. You know what I'm talking about? Brian Stump.
Oh, yeah.
Remember him?
Ooh.
He's a stud, man, too.
Dude. Ooh.
He played, he ran a 1,000-yard rusher at Calhoun County, played linebacker at Marshall. Yeah. I remember, I think it was maybe my sophomore year, Chuck's junior year. They ran a play, and, Brian Stump was a load, man. He was probably 220, 230, in high school, and his thighs were freaking huge.
Yes.
They ran a dive play up the middle. Chuck was middle linebacker. He annihilated him. I was like, that was the most impressive hit I ever seen in high school.
I remember that.
Hands down, not even close. The most impressive hit I've ever seen. Is that the reason why maybe he had some of the problems he did? Maybe.
Maybe.
But again, it's just...
That's just who he was, though.
Yeah, you're not going to take that out of his personality.
Right.
And
that's how he played the sport. And, going back to that September 24th night, as brutal as that was and all the events surrounding it, he died doing what he loved to do at that time in his life. I hate to say that validates it, but if you're going to go out, I want to go out doing something I love to do, but nobody wants to go out early, obviously. But
that was the hardest thing to deal with, obviously, because, there's obviously some guilt on my end of it, especially initially. And I think everybody felt it too, just like as far as, what could I have done differently to keep that from happening? Like, do I call a timeout when he came back to the huddle? Do I, get him off the field? There's things that you just replay in your mind.
Oh, for sure.
I don't know what I would have done different, but
Well, like we talked earlier, the hindsight part, obviously now we know what we would do different.
Right, exactly. Call a timeout, get him off the field.
For sure.
But you don't know that's that serious when it's going on. And even when he left the field in the ambulance, it's serious, but at the same time, you don't think it's as grave as what the end result was. Mm-hmm. So it was tough. It was tough on everyone.
Yeah, it was. Do you remember, you got any vivid details that you remember from that? When it all went down that just, bother you a little bit? I know I do.
You mean on the field?
Yeah. I'll just go ahead and start. I remember when he collapsed and because I was on the he was a tight end and I was the receiver on his side for that play. And I was looking down the line, obviously, waiting on your cadence and around the play. And I saw him shaking and starting to wobble around. And then all of a sudden, when he collapsed, I remember his body just tensed up like.
Yes, I do remember that as well.
Muscle in his body just flexed, and I could see almost every vein in his legs and his arms, his neck, and his eyes, and his face. And then,
but I do remember that as well. Yeah, I mean that's one of the probably the most vivid. I tell you again, you try to piece it together, but I do think the most vivid thing I do remember is his eyes.
Mm-hmm.
When he came back to the huddle and asked him if he was all right. I mean, again, I can't tell you if they were dilated. I just remember looking into his eyes and saying, "You're right." He shook his head, yeah. But I knew, and that's what I feel guilty about. I knew deep down he was, not all right. His bell was rung.
Yeah.
Like I said, to the severity, I had no idea of how severe it was.
Right.
It's just, that's probably the most vivid memory on the field is just him looking at me and shaking his head, yeah. And just, I remember seeing that face and,
Yeah. I remember, when he collapsed and we, us as a team we're right there because we were like, well,
yeah, I mean, we were the first ones
up to
we were the first ones over there. Like I tried to grab him to help him up, and that's why I remember. Now that you say that his being flexed, I remember that now because when I went to grab him, like he was just all tight. And
he
stuff,
was,
like,
so. And I remember looking down, and
I think I remember waving like this,
right,
and
then I looked up, and here come the trainers, and it was just like slow motion movie, like.
It was in slow motion for a good, it seemed like eternity, but when they
Ever
came
since.
Yeah, I know, man. So,
yeah. And I, looking back on that, I don't know. Obviously I don't even know what I was thinking at that point. I knew something serious was wrong. But like you said, I mean, we've all had a little dinger or a little, snot bubble bell ringer in football, but never seen anybody do that before.
Well, I don't think you ever let yourself go to that place thinking the worst case scenario with somebody you're that close to. You never want to imagine that happening.
Yeah.
And I don't think even, it was all surreal because I think even after, I heard the news and even after, the doctor had given a diagnosis, it still was, I didn't think the worst.
Mm-hmm.
You still don't let it sink in properly. You're just like, no, there's no way. This isn't happening.
Right.
I mean, he's going to be okay.
Yep, definitely.
He'll pull through this.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the toughest thing, man. I remember that was probably the hardest thing I've ever dealt with in my life to this day at 44 years old is being with the family and the doctor coming in and saying, you guys, this is the options. And what do you guys want to do?
Yeah.
They decided obviously to pull the plug and, there was no brain activity. So, it was hard for me to understand at the time and it's hard for me to take. And I remember getting to go in and say goodbye to my friend, this guy we talked about being such a stud, such a physical presence and, somebody that I'd spent almost every day with that year.
You guys were tight, man.
I went to the, family vacations with them, 2 weeks at the beach and every year. And, just seeing my friend, in the hospital bed with, knowing it's the last time I was going to see him it's like I said, to this day at 44 years old, it's the hardest thing I've ever dealt with in my life. I'm sure there'll be other things maybe that happen, I'm lucky enough to have both my parents and all, lucky enough not to have another severe tragedy in my life, but that by far is the hardest thing I've ever done so far in my life.
Yeah, I agree. And it's shaped all of us, ever since then, my life has been completely different. And I know yours has too. And it actually affected me in ways that I didn't know for a long time, and until probably, I don't know, 10, 15 years after that happened, maybe longer. Because, we talked about empathy. We talked about compassion of being a young kid. We didn't have that.
No, it's hard to put yourself in somebody else's place.
Yeah, we didn't have that growing up. That's just how you are. You're 17, 18 years old and your testosterone and empathy, compassion, understanding of that kind of a situation. You just don't have it.
Yeah.
And then later on in life, I can remember thinking, why, like asking myself, because ever since then, I've been kind of like my circle, my friend circle.
Mm-hmm.
There's not very many people in it.
Yeah.
And it's just, and it's by choice. And I keep my arms up pretty stiff all the time. You know,
Right.
I'm really particular who I get involved with in a friendship manner, and it's because of and I'll be honest with you, it's I don't want to feel that again, and that's honest.
Oh, sure.
Truth, you know
I mean,
what I mean?
I get that, and that's definitely a real thing when you experience something like that. You know, you don't want to experience it again.
Yeah.
That's for sure. But you know, on the flip side of that, for me, I think it made me appreciate friendships a little more. Especially the older I get, I do appreciate people more because I know I know what it's like not to, you know, you always lose touch with people and you lose track of people, but they're there if you want to talk to them. And, you know, like we said, we pick right up where we left off and things of that nature. But, you know, as far as the person, it makes you appreciate people more that you're close to.
Right.
And I understand maybe not having the biggest circle of friends and, you know, because, you know, you want to be around people that you really enjoy being around. Yeah. That's the thing about life. And the older I get, the more I realize that I want to surround myself with people that I enjoy being around.
Absolutely.
And, you know, it makes your days on earth easier. Mm-hmm. You know, it makes it more enjoyable.
Right.
You know, obviously you got your family and you're always going to be being enjoyable to be around your family. But at the same time, you know, you want to pick your circle of friends where you're, you know, that you enjoy being around, the same interest or whatever. But I do think on the flip side of what you said, I think it did make me appreciate friendships a little more.
Yeah.
Just in the aspect of losing someone that close to you, you know, and not being able to ever see them again.
Right.
You know, you kind of treasure the moments that you have with someone a little more now than I did back. Obviously at 18, you don't, you know.
Yeah.
It's the last thing you think is going to happen.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So. Yeah, this stuff, it didn't register for a long time. I mean.
Oh, yeah. It took me years to really fully, you know, head on take it on in my mind.
Right.
And truly accept the fact, you know, there's little things in my life I do every day. I mean, I've told you this before. I mean, there's probably not a day that goes by in my life I don't think about Chuck.
Right,
you know?
right.
You know, we were, it's weird to say that because it's a relationship that, you know, I haven't had for so long. You think it would just go away after a while and you just, you know, you don't think about it because out of mind, out of sight, out of mind, or out of mind, out of sight.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, out of sight, out of mind.
I can put that together. Thanks, man. Jeez. No, but anyway, no, it's just one of those things where I still think about that all the time. And, and you know, I try not to think about the loss as much, and I try to think about Chuck more.
Yeah.
You know, I try to honor him a little more in the memory of remembering the good times that we had. I mean, we went to the beach like 3 years in a row, the Myrtle Beach. I mean, it was the funnest time of my life. Those 2 weeks we'd go down there and, you know, chase women around, you know, like you said, at that age, you got a testosterone and you know, you're at the beach and there's me and him look forward to those 2 weeks every year. I mean, like that was that last year we went before our senior year in high school was probably still my top 5 moments of my life.
Yeah.
Great times.
Yeah.
You know, we did some amazing things down there and, you know, and it's funny, like you were talking about that being a national news thing.
It was.
You know, it's funny. There was a girl that he met down there.
What?
Yeah, and you know, it was just like a fling, you know, whatever. You meet a girl at the beach, maybe they kiss me. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know the details, but anyway, it was funny because they kept in contact. Now they weren't, you know, dating or anything, but they wrote each other some occasionally.
Yeah.
I think maybe they talked on the phone once or twice, you know. They became friends, but you know, she found out about it in USA Today.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah. This girl called my house.
What?
Yeah, she found my name in the phone book. Like she figured it out. Like somehow she got my number, and she called and asked me, "This is the Chuck that we?" You know, I'm like, "Yeah."
No way.
Yeah, crazy.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. She was from South Carolina.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Wow.
So you know, it's funny that you said that was a national thing because it was. She saw it in USA Today.
Yeah, it was national news. I mean, I think we had some managers from like some pro football teams contact us. Do you remember all that? Like Dallas Cowboys or something?
I don't know the exact details.
Didn't contact us, but contacted the
They reached out and said, "Hey, you know, we're sorry for what happened."
Condolences and stuff like that.
I do know there was some of that. I don't, you know, like the details of it. I don't know, but Yeah, it's crazy, man. It was a national news because I think that was the first high school football related death in so many years.
Yeah, it'd been a while.
It'd been a while since somebody had died on the football field related directly to what happened.
And it's a very odd thing. I mean, it happens. It does happen. It happened last year in our just a couple counties away.
It's so insane that something like that happened so close to where it would happen before. Mm-hmm. West Virginia's not a big pond. Very big. So
it happened in 2000. See, last year it happened in Roane County, and then I think back in 2013 it happened up in Harrison County.
Wow.
Yeah.
Didn't realize it happened in Harrison County.
Mm-hmm. I think it was Harrison County.
No, I mean, I just realized there was another incident besides Roane.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's crazy. I think it was 2013 time frame. Might be wrong there, but it happened there too. Similar situation.
Was it a brain aneurysm?
Yep. I think it was an aneurysm. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly.
Now, the kid from Roane County, was it the same thing as well? I read about it when it happened, and I remember, me and you had talked about it when it happened. I don't remember the details of it. I don't know whether or not it was,
I think it was brain related.
It was all concussed, headshots.
Don't quote me on that.
Oh, jeez.
But yeah, I mean, and that's kind of...
It's odd.
It is odd. And I'll tell you, last year when the Roane County kid passed away, up to that point, I thought I was completely, I don't want to say, I don't want to say I was over the Chuck incident, but I thought I had compartmentalized it just right.
Yeah, you thought you'd taken it on and dealt with it.
Yeah, and I thought I'd already dealt with it just right. And it was in its spot where it needed to be in my soul. You know what I mean?
Right.
And not that I ever forget, but it was there. It was in a safe spot. When that kid passed away, of course, there's Facebook and there's all this stuff everywhere. And you're reading all this stuff. And that's when I got a hold of you again, remember?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And anyway, I started reading all these posts and all these messages, because you can jump on any post and read the messages, and and all that stuff, man, was just like a tidal wave, just blew my shoes off. I was like, completely, that safe spot I thought I had that tucked away in, it was gone.
Yeah. And it never can tuck it away deep enough sometimes, especially something like that. I mean, you're never really going to ever get rid of it.
No.
It's always going to be there. I mean, I remember.
I guess I wasn't ready for, to get that thing opened up.
And something like that puts it right in your face,
whether
you want it to be or not. I mean, it's the same situation pretty much, and so close to where it happened before. And I tell you, man, I had a lot of drunk cries. In my life over this, where you think, I'm all right, I've dealt with this. And, one night you had a few too many drinks and you're sitting around thinking about something and it hits you and, it hurts, it still hurts. Again, the guilty part of it for me, for maybe changing the course of what would have happened that night, that, and not only that kind of guilt, I always have that guilt. Why not? Why him?
Oh, yeah.
Why not me?
Right.
Somebody else. Why, what would he be doing right now?
Right.
And I used to do that to myself all the time when I was younger, but now I try to, I guess, honor him a little better in a better way, saying, well, Chuck would have done this and done the right way, or, it's just tough. It's a tough thing to go back and look upon and say, okay, what would he have done? And I don't know what I'm looking for something here that I can't find, but I know that he would have lived a good life. He was a great person.
Oh, yeah.
And sometimes I just feel really guilty that I got the opportunity to be where I'm at in life right now and have a beautiful son and a beautiful wife. And,
right.
And I guess there's that guilt for that he didn't get to experience those things in life, I guess is the best way I'm trying to say. I got to experience things that I felt like he should have been able to and would have been good at.
That's very similar to survivor's guilt. They call it for the military stuff.
Yeah,
and I
didn't want to use that because that's
exactly
right.
What it is. It's exactly what it is. Survivor's guilt, and it's a hindsight kind of a thing.
Right,
you're always thinking, man, what if, what if?
Well, I couldn't imagine being part of a platoon or something, and guys down around you. And that's why I didn't want to equate it to that because.
But it's the same thing.
It is. I guess the emotion part of it is the same.
And if you talk about even like PTSD, that kind of thing, it's not just for military folks. It's not just for first responders.
Right.
It is for anybody that has suffered a dramatic, incident or
event,
whatever.
Yeah.
You can get it. And I guarantee you we have it because of that.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say it's PTSD because of that, but we have been affected dramatically because of that.
Oh, yeah. It definitely changed the way I looked at life.
And I know it's not just you and I, dude. It's from what I've learned in the last couple of years, and especially the last couple of weeks, there's a lot of people that it's like
he was so well liked and so well thought of as a person, in that school,
right,
and in the county in general, that it affected a lot of people,
right.
And it definitely affected a lot of people, probably the we don't even know, like just in ways that we didn't understand at the time,
right?
Even to this day, probably don't know or understand. But yeah, it's crazy, and it really is. And I don't know. I mean, again, I know what I went through, part of it, and you know what you went through. But again, it's just like his parents. Like I keep going back to Dick and Nancy. I just couldn't imagine what they went through with that whole ordeal.
Yeah. Well, for the audience that might not know that part of, I know you mentioned it already, but they might not have picked up on that. Chuck was on life support for 6 days in the hospital. And they tried surgery, and he was unresponsive for several days, and basically he was on life support.
He had no brain activity.
He had no brain activity, and they come down to, the parents made a decision to the parents and family made the decision to let his soul go to a higher place. So that's what happened. And that's how he passed. So yeah, that was a
I couldn't imagine having to get through that.
Yeah, I hope
pray to God that I never have to make that decision.
Yeah.
So
I can't imagine.
That was looking back on it, as far as the things that I look back on that a lot, as far as the perspective of Dick and Nancy, who I love like parents. I mean, they were so good to me, and they treated all of us good. I mean,
man,
Dick, the stuff he did before, as far as like hauling our equipment for the football games. I mean, he just loved being a part of around the kids, and Nancy was just great. I mean, again, to this day that breaks my heart more than anything. It's just them having to go through that as well. And
yeah, that's a good point, because a lot of the I guess the pain that I have from that incident is seeing everybody's reactions and knowing what they went through, even myself included, but just seeing all that pain, man, it was freaking everywhere. And every time you turned around, it was there.
It was in your face. I mean, like you just couldn't get away from it. I just remember there was days I just didn't want to go to school because I didn't want to talk about it anymore. I didn't want people saying, "Are you okay?" Or "How you doing, man?" And it got old after a while. I mean, I think the good thing about what you're saying is everybody was going through it at the same time. So it just kind of naturally worked its way out eventually that year. But it was tough. I mean, again, I'd never want to wish that upon anyone to go through, but at the same time, I don't know. It was a very tough experience.
Right.
And I don't think that either one of us ever thought something like that would happen at that point in our lives, for sure.
Way. It's crazy.
Yeah,
my
very,
gosh.
very, very.
And, it's like we said, it's impacted our life forever, and we'll never forget it. But I think it's molded us into who we are, obviously. So
I can't believe we finished that football season out.
We did.
I really don't. That's one thing I look back on.
That was a blur.
And it was a blur to me.
We played how many more games? 4 more games that year?
Or at least
5, maybe.
I think 5.
And
I'll be honest with you. I know, we got screwed out of going to the playoffs that year, the last game of the season in Sissonville, on a stupid freaking call that they said Andrew hit that guy out of bounds, and he was like 5 yards inbounds. You know what I mean? I remember that play. That's funny. I remember stuff like that.
Right.
But it was, but I'll be honest with you. I know when we've got in the locker room, there was a feeling of relief that the season was over with.
Yeah.
Even though we just missed the playoffs. That's how I felt.
Yeah.
I felt like I'm done with football, man. I'm beat, emotionally drained, physically drained. I just, so.
I can remember, obviously playing those games and all that, but I was like just a gear behind where I always was.
Yeah. You're playing with the weight.
And it's, you're not second guessing your moves and your plays and this and that, but I don't know, just something in me I was just a little hesitant all the time. And I'm sure we all were. Like I said, it goes back to that emotion, the traumatic event that we went to. And
yeah, like I said, I can't believe we finished that season. I think if you would have asked everyone on the team that we all wanted to, I think we ought to have said, yes, we're not, not going to play.
And he would want us to.
Exactly. But at the same time, just looking back on it emotionally, it was very draining.
Right.
It was. like you said, you're a gear behind. Your heart's not completely in it.
So much.
You know what I mean? It's just it was a shame, that we and him did not get to finish that year together because I know him and I had talked about that season all summer. We worked out together.
Oh, yeah.
He worked out with us a lot, and we were all excited about. We made the playoffs the year before, the first time in school history.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to do it this year. It just, I just think it was tough. Obviously the loss of him was the toughest, but I mean, just not being able to accomplish what we wanted to accomplish, and the way we didn't accomplish it,
right? And
what happened. It just looking back on it, I think that changed my personality more than anything. Because I love sports. Yeah, I still love sports. But at the time, I just, like you said, I just was gear behind. I wasn't in it.
Oh, completely.
So
game prep, all that stuff was just like,
just, I don't know, whatever, kind of.
Let me ask you this. Here's a question that's not really on my list, but I just thought of it.
Go ahead.
For anybody listening out there that was involved with this event or events similar to this, maybe the Rowan County folks are going to listen to this or somebody like that. What would you tell them right now, maybe some information or just some advice or anything you can offer them, just from your perspective as a good buddy, a best friend of Chuck, as somebody that went through that? How could you influence them? Maybe help them out. Is there anything you can tell them?
Well, I think, I mean, what I would say probably was that made things the easiest was being around friends and family. I mean, that's all you can do at the time, is like you deal with it together. Like I said, I know I went to school and I got tired of talking about it. At the same time, it was therapeutic.
Yeah.
Even though you didn't want to do it, it made it easier.
Yeah.
That everybody was dealing with the same thing, and people were, going through the same emotions you're going through, and you're allowed to maybe express something you'd be afraid to maybe express in another situation. I think I would tell those people, talk about it, be around each other, deal with it, console each other, pray with each other,
cry together,
console and cry, and, work it out. But I don't think there's ever really a correct way to deal with something like that. I don't know. Everybody's got their own coping mechanisms and the way they deal with things. And, but the only advice I would give them is just, be there for each other.
Right.
If somebody wants to talk about it, be a shoulder to cry on, be an ear to listen to. That I had a lot of good friends. I was lucky growing up in high school. We both were. And, we had a lot of good people in our in our area, that a lot of good friends, a lot of good teachers, we had great parents. So it made it easier. So I'd say just lean on the people that you normally lean on in situations, and just maybe lean a little harder if you need to.
That's good advice. Real good advice. I agree with that. I reiterate what you said. The advice I would offer would be very similar to that. I also would say, try not to stick it away in a place that you think it's safe at. And I'm speaking this mainly from my soul. I have a hard time telling people why I'm in pain or something hurt me. You know what I mean? I've always been that way. We're type A personality guys.
Yeah, you don't want to admit that you got weakness.
Yep,
yeah.
That's just how it is. But from what I've learned over time, and I know the things that hurt me the most, whether it's that or some other things that went on in my life, when I stick them away and think they're safe in a spot that only I know where they're at, don't do that. And it'll come back and come out of your soul when you least expect it. And all of a sudden your life is just going to blow up. Your shoes are going to fly off. You're not going to find your underwear. I mean, you're going to be a wreck. Yeah. And don't do that.
I agree with you 100%. Like you're something is going to hit you when you least expect it if you don't deal with it. Yeah. And I think that's a very good advice for the people that if there is somebody listening that is going through something like this, I think you're absolutely right, Steve. You got to deal with it, because if you don't, it'll get you eventually.
Absolutely.
You might think like you said, you have it tucked away, but it'll come back to bite you when you least expect it.
Yes.
I tell you what gets me with things I don't deal with, and it hasn't just been this incident in my life. There's other things that go wrong in your life that's tough to deal with. And I think, I know you're into music, but like a song sometimes I'll hear a certain song and it'll just bring me right to that emotion. Right. I mean, do not pass go, 0 to 60, right there to that emotion. As soon as I hear that song starts, it'll bring me right to it. I mean, Chuck and I listened to, he was into music. He was the first guy I knew that had a Sony Walkman. We're dating ourselves a little bit, but I mean, he was the first guy that had like an actual yellow Sony Walkman. And he was always into music. He was the first guy to have a CD player in his car. You know what I mean? He was that guy.
Yes, he was.
So he was into music, and there was a lot of songs we listened to together, but there were some songs out here that we used to listen to. And if I hear them, I can't help it. It takes me right to that place wherever we were at. And it might be a smile. It might be, but a lot of times it's sad. You hear it and you're just like, man.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah. And it's great that we have those kind of fond memories, because as much as they hurt, we still have them, and you know what I mean.
Exactly.
It still comes back fresh.
And that's what I said. I try to when I think about Chuck, I try not to get depressed or get sad about it. I try to remember him as a person and how good of a person he was, and how many good times I had with him. I mean, we could probably sit here and tell 7 or 8 stories that will, that's hilarious.
Oh my God.
I mean, I got like 4 or 5 that just they're my top stories. I still tell people to this day.
Hey, let's hear one of them, man. Well, for those of you who don't know, Greg, he's talking a little bit about, not only did we play sports together, Chuck, me, Greg, Tony, and all of our good friends, we did everything together.
We did.
We camped together. We fished together.
I'll tell that story though.
We chased girls together. Yes. I mean, it's just what boys did back then. And
I hope Nancy doesn't hear this, because I don't know if she's still. I don't know how much of this she knew Chuck did. But no. Anyway, we'd always get camping in either like mostly your dad's place, behind your guys' house. We would get camping up there, and I think. There was probably 4 or 5 of us, at least 5. I know it was like me and you and Tony and Chuck, and maybe Danny Meeks was there. Matt Haynes, maybe. One of those guys. I think it was Danny that time, though. I do believe.
I think it was too.
But anyway, we got our hands on some vodka, and some beer. We got some beer and some vodka, But we were, how old were we? You guys were probably, maybe it was the summer before.
Yeah,
we were
16,
probably,
17.
Chuck and I were probably juniors. You and Tony were probably sophomores, and Danny was a junior with us. But anyway, we got our hands on some alcohol, and we drank really heavily that night. And Chuck was one of those guys, even at a young age, he drank pretty quickly, and got drunk pretty quick. And I remember he chugged that half a bottle of vodka. My goodness, I couldn't do that now. Yeah. Let alone it's 16 or 17. I already was 16 probably. But I don't know if you remember him passing out that night.
Yeah.
You remember the next morning?
Yes, I do.
Well, I'll set a picture for you. There's like me and Stevie and I think Tony at the time and Danny were all sitting around the fire, and Chuck's the last one to get up because obviously he got a little drunk the night before. But anyway, he gets up and he looks at us, and we all start laughing immediately. And he's like, "What are you guys laughing at?" Well, he literally had a cow patty stuck to the side of his face. He literally slept as a pillow in a cow patty, which, if you guys know what a cow patty is, it's a big cow turd. It's a big round pile.
Oh, yeah.
And it was just so funny. Then he realized it, and he made himself throw up because, he was like, "Oh my God, I got shit over my face." But it was just fun. The look on his face, I still remember that. It made me laugh so hard because him starting going, "What are you guys looking at?"
Oh,
I feel like shit. What do you got? He wants their ass beat. But no,
I think somebody said, "You look like shit" or something. Didn't they?
Somebody had a wisecrack. I don't know if it was you or I or whoever, but it was pretty funny. And I know we ended up going down swimming at the pond after that to wash off the crap off his face. But I remember that to this day, that vivid, picture of him with a freaking cow patty hanging off the side of his face. God. I mean, there's there's tons of them.
Tons of stories.
Stuff that don't involve drinking and, just hanging out. But I mean, I get so many, but that's one of my favorites.
Yeah, that was epic. I think we all remember that. Every time we get together, we're like, "Do you remember?" I
remember because we all shared it. Like me, you and Stevie, or me and Tony and you and Danny all shared it together. So we all have that same memory of him, with that cow patty on the side of his face.
Oh my gosh.
Good times. Those were,
the best times, man.
Right.
And that's the good thing about it. I mean, as tragic of an event that was, we have great times, great memories. And, at the end of the day, that's what's going to pull everybody through whatever it is they're going through. It's just remember the good stuff. And sorrow when you need to sorrow. Lean a hand out when you need to lean one out. Ask for a hand when you need to ask for a hand.
Absolutely.
And just be good people to each other. And we're all getting through life every second of the day. We're all making decisions, whether they're good or bad. But that's what we're here to do, to live life, and we need to live it for the people that can't live it anymore.
Yeah, and that's the weird thing about life. There's no set time you get on this earth.
That's right.
It's all, it's not predetermined. I mean, it's just, it could go any day, so enjoy the time you have with the people that you love. And, unfortunately Chuck's was, way too short, but I do remember the times he was on. I mean, the times I was with him while he was here, and that's what you said, celebrate it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. Man, I feel a lot better, dude, after having this conversation.
Yeah, man. Like we talked about, you just never really get over it.
No,
truly,
never do.
At the same time, like it's easier for me to think about,
right?
Than it used to be. Sometimes it would come up in my mind, and I would try to push it away.
Yeah,
like
definitely.
you said,
did a lot.
I don't want to deal with that right now. I don't want to think about that. I think I'm at the point in my life now where if something like I hear that song,
yeah,
I automatically take it head on. I just say,
right.
yeah, I go through that emotion right away. I don't put it off.
And you just look at us for an example. We never talked about it really.
No,
ever.
I mean,
occasionally
we did at the time. I think a little bit, probably some. Not like we should. Again, you're 17, 18 years old, 16. You don't know how to talk about it,
right?
Like you said, the bravado and being tough. You don't want to open up and let yourself expose your weakness of emotions or whatever you want to call it. But the older you get, the more it becomes easier to admit things.
Yeah,
and
we become wiser, and life makes more sense, and we empathy, that thing
exactly.
comes back
You develop some good qualities, and
Yep.
when you get older,
absolutely,
that you definitely don't have when you're younger.
Oh my gosh. Hey man, let's move on to a couple more questions.
Yeah, absolutely,
we'll wrap
man.
this show up.
Sure.
What do you think your biggest accomplishment this far is in life?
Well, I mean, honestly, probably my wife and my son. I mean, it's the easy answer, but it's so true. I mean, I didn't get married till later in life. I think I was 36 when I got married. I didn't have my son until I was 37. So, I mean, obviously, I waited a while.
Yeah.
But, I think I waited for a reason, and I'm glad I did. And I think that accomplishment to me is like I didn't get married young in life to somebody that maybe like I'd met some good ones. Don't get me wrong.
Right,
I dated some good women before
Sure.
my wife. But at the same time, I'm glad I waited because I think I waited for the right person.
Right, I agree.
And, I waited, to have a kid. Obviously, I would like to have more kids, but that's how it worked out for me. And I'm just very grateful and thankful that I have my son, Grayson. And, he's an accomplishment. You look at a child, and that's the best thing you can do in this world.
Absolutely,
I think is raise another person. I don't think anybody should take that for granted. It's something I took for granted for years by not having. But once you have a kid, and once you're sitting in a room with your own child, and you look and say, "Wow, man," nothing makes you feel that emotion. Of just I would do whatever. I'd run in front of a truck for this kid.
I would too.
It's just. Yep. I think that's it's easy to say that, and most people don't look at having kids as an accomplishment. Some people should, and they don't. You know what I mean? Some people just take it for granted and go out and do whatever. And
and a lot of that can be where they're at in their life. I mean,
exactly. People make mistakes.
Absolutely.
But I'm just saying, like for me, I could have fell into that.
Oh yeah,
very easily.
Oh yeah.
But I'm glad that I waited and did what I did, and I'm very happy in my life right now. And I think that's an accomplishment. I think a lot of people, and I was prone to make mistakes when I was younger, and I made plenty of them.
Right.
And I think that was one thing I'm glad I didn't jump into, because I wasn't ready. It wasn't the people that I was with at the time necessarily. It was me, because I did date some good ones, and I just think that I did. I was proud of myself for maybe not doing something that would have been easy to do, and waited until the right time to do
I agree. I agree. I agree with that 100%. That's my biggest accomplishment. It's just being a great. I don't want to say I'm a great dad.
Oh, you are, man.
But,
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, having a kid, having a family, making some good decisions. When you make bad ones, they help you. They forgive you. Those kind of things. But there's nothing beats family. Nothing beats raising a kid and trying to teach them the things that I sucked at.
Yeah. Well, sometimes, you're right. But sometimes you got to let kids make their own mistakes.
Sure. Yeah.
As far as like, stuff. But
Yeah.
You're right, though. I mean, you try to steer them in a direction of things that you maybe thought you did wrong or didn't do well, or you try to not make, but at the same time, a lot of times kids are just like their parents.
Absolutely.
So you really can't help it.
Me.
Right. Me too. My kid's very ordinary.
Oh my God.
But, again, it's awesome. It's the best thing I've ever done in my life is have a kid. I mean, I didn't have my wife. Yeah. That was the good thing about it is I didn't have to do it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it was fun. It's fun. Every day is different. And, I look forward to seeing him every day. If he's at school and he gets home, I mean, I can't wait to see him. It's great.
It is. All right, man, I'm going to move on to another question.
Sure.
Where do you see yourself in the next 20 years, or what is the next chapter in your life look like? You can combine those. It's kind of two questions.
Well, I mean, like I said, like getting married later in life and having a kid, I wouldn't say late in life, but late, middle-aged instead of being in my 20s and, early 30s. I think right now I'm in the process of trying to get a house sold and get on the market and sold. And I think the next 20 years of my life is just going to be about finding that piece of, I don't know, my own little slice of heaven, I guess you call it, the dream home, or, finding a nice little piece of property and, continue working hard and raising my family and being a good husband and being a good son and, being a good friend.
Yeah.
And just trying to do the best at things I can possibly be as far as the things that are important to me in life and spending time with the people that I think that are important in my life.
That's awesome. Yeah, man.
That's what I hope to do.
Yeah.
I mean, like there's always,
we got to have goals in life. No matter where you're at, what stage, how old. I mean, I have goals. My goals are I just want to be a better person every day of my life. And I want to keep, being a leader for the people that mean the most to me, or even people that I'm around at work or yada, yada, yada. I just want to keep being a better version of me.
Yeah. You never want to stop growing as a person.
Yes.
You always want to keep that, there's ideas of becoming a better person, how to do it in the back of your head or in front of your mind or whatever you want to do, however you process it. But you just always want to be a better person. It's easy to say, it's harder to do. And there's steps you can take every day that can do that. But sometimes it's hard to make those steps. It's hard to do that one little extra thing to be a better person. But,
it is.
Try to. And the older you get, it becomes easier, I think, to do the little things in life that make you a better person.
Right.
I don't think either one of us are bad people. I think we're both good people. It's just,
we're humans.
Right. You're going to make mistakes.
Absolutely.
We're
going to make more. We might make the biggest mistake yet of our life coming up.
We don't know. I mean, I hope not.
Yeah, I know.
But, but I like, again, it may be something you get in a fight with your wife, or you may say something you didn't mean to say to somebody that's close to you, and whatever. But how you react and come back from that is what makes you a better person.
Right.
And sometimes it's hard to do that. It's hard to say, I was wrong there.
Yeah.
I'm bad.
Yeah. Yes.
But
that's hard.
It gets easier as you get older. I think you, like I said, you get a little more empathy, you get a little more humility.
Yep.
So
I like it.
But the next 20 years, man, like I'm looking forward to.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to making it to retirement if I do.
Hopefully.
No, I mean, I don't mind where it's just, my dad just retired and he's enjoying it.
Yeah.
So I want to get there one day in my life too, mid-60s. And, luckily, I think our parents, your dad retired too, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think they're young enough and healthy enough, they still get to enjoy it.
Yes.
I want to be able to enjoy that someday, So.
I agree. Can't wait.
Right.
All right, Greg, I tell you what, man, we're about an hour plus into the show, man. Hey, you know what? I just want to tell you, I really appreciate you coming on.
I appreciate you having me.
And I appreciate the discussions that we had. And I just hope people can hear that and maybe hear us talk about what went down. And,
if it helps somebody, that's great, man. Yeah. It's what we're here for.
That's
but
right.
No, man, like I said, I appreciate you having me. This is an awesome thing you're doing. Anytime you want me in the studio, you let me know. I'll be here. And, this is great. I'll continue to listen, man. You've done this, hopefully this turns out as good as the first two. But the first two were great. Like I said, I hope this continues for you and continued success. And
thanks, man. Appreciate it. All right, folks. I tell you what, man, this has been one heck of a Life Hacks podcast episode. And I'll wait for that truck to go by. But yeah.
Should I wait to fart? Too late.
All right, folks. Hey, this has been one heck of a Life Hacks podcast episode, and I want to thank my good buddy Greg for coming on. For all you folks out there that are having trouble dealing with an issue, need somebody to talk to, reach out. Be a good person for somebody. Ask somebody for help. We all are in a different walk in life, but just go through it the best that you can and make good decisions as best as you can. Until next time, folks, be a good human, and we will see you later.